Peace, peace, y'all. How are you today? It's another wonderful day in the woods. Woke up with a couple extra inches of snow. So, once again, I'm just going to take a little walk in the woods. Come along and join me. Look at this crazy, eh? Starting to snow again. Right outside my front door. Don't you just love this? Seen an eagle, had a little ferret or mink or something here with a bit of black tail. It's now underneath my cabin, hopefully eating any moles or mice. So without further ado, let's go for a walk, and I'm going to play The Pursuit of Clarity, episode 38. Let's do it.
Hello and welcome to In Pursuit of Clarity, episode 38, entitled The State of Our Disunion. Thoughts on where we are and where we're headed. There's simply too much of significance happening simultaneously to even begin to speak to the details and specifics anymore, and this pace certainly isn't likely to slow anytime soon. So I wanted to, once again, attempt to pull back to a broader perspective, and attempt to analyze the broader strokes of what's happening all around us, the trends of our age, which can sometimes get lost in the shuffle as we're constantly prompted to focus on the new distraction of the day. You may have noticed an explosion of discussion and news articles on the topics of what are being called NFTs, or non-fungible tokens, as well as a new trend of large-scale purchases of what's being labeled virtual real estate. These things may seem comically absurd at first glance, to the extent that you might even think they're not worthy of attention or discussion, but I tend to think they're much, much more significant than they might seem. A quick explanation for those not aware. These two concepts are closely intertwined and fairly similar. In the first case, they involve the selling or purchasing of some thing in the virtual world. A picture, a piece of art. It might be almost anything, really. The second case involves the purchase of virtual land or territory within a virtual environment. Some of you might be asking the obvious question: why would anybody pay, in some cases tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars, for something that exists only in a virtual arena? To attempt to give their side of the argument its due, it goes something like this. If we're already spending so many hours of our day in virtual online environments, whether these be games or apps or social media, why not then make purchases that we might, for example, then be able to show off to others, in the same manner that some people purchase a specific type of car or clothes or a work of art to wear as a badge of taste or accomplishment to impress those looking on. From a broader perspective, we can see that these are elements of a new trend, one of removing ourselves from our natural world and toward and into virtual and artificially created worlds, a new trend deeply connected to other similar new trends. As this mystery virus sparked panic and hysteria, leading to a massive power transfer to a technocratic class, and, quote, medical professionals, and a variety of newly established domestic and international organizations, much of the population of the world became essentially prisoners in their own homes. And we saw a unique focus on preventing people from gathering together and preventing many from even enjoying gyms or churches or pubs, even parks or oceans. As a result of this home confinement, backed by the force of law in many nations, small businesses and all things brick and mortar began to die a slow and painful death, go bankrupt and disappear, while companies like Amazon post record profits, and Netflix and similar monopolies dominate an even larger share of the average person's daily inputs. And as the real world is increasingly outlawed, a new world is being created for us to act as its replacement. The countless media articles highlighting things like the NFT or virtual real estate conceptions are attempting to create this new reality by doing so. And of course, at least among the subset that still reads them and takes them seriously, it's working. In my opinion, this isn't just dangerous, it's one of the greatest cultural dangers we've ever faced. I've spoken more than once in the past about how our economic system, as constructed via the central banks and our Federal Reserve, our interest and usury and fiat currencies, seems a bit like having an admitted enemy design a game and then subsequently embracing this game, and then devoting the bulk of your time and attention to mastering it. Perhaps not realizing the rulebook was carefully crafted to ensure your type might never play a dominant role, and that the maximum amount of your energy is funneled in its direction. Now, of course, we've always had means and methods of barter and exchange, and currencies and some modern economic ideas helped make this a bit more fluid and convenient. What I'm saying here shouldn't be heard as an attack on the most fundamental and basic concepts at play here, necessarily. So we might alter the example given a moment ago to say it's a bit like having an enemy stumble upon a very simple and easy to understand game being carried on in an efficient and straightforward manner, and obtaining power enough to rewrite and restructure the rulebook and turn it into a complex labyrinthian tome, forever adding details and loopholes and fine print which few people actually understand, yet which he and his small circle of friends live and breathe, having essentially written it from the ground up and having made it the central focus of their study, recognizing this mastery as the key to the victory they seek. So if losing ourselves in this economic game represents something of a trap, an ultra-efficient means of siphoning life energies away from humanity at large, how much more of a trap might this new virtual existence be? Most of you have likely heard by now of the new international organizations boasting about how you'll soon own nothing and be happy. Consider what this means in a world in which those with even moderately dissident political beliefs are being silenced from social media platforms, kicked off of payment processors, seeing bank accounts frozen, and a multitude of other things in the same vein. This new culture has essentially monopolized tech, media, and banking, and focused on these areas for a reason. And they really do have near total control in these spheres, and now only have a small minority remaining to silence or sideline before this monopolization of the public square is complete. Owning nothing, living in a virtual world, spending the vast majority of your hours immersed in it, and devoting your time, your attention, and your energy to the various aspects of it, ultimately represents the most profound power transfer imaginable from the public and into the hands of this new culture. In a very real sense, they're attempting to recreate our existence, redesign our very reality as we know it. Now, if these major societal changes were being pioneered by a multitude of individuals with a wide range of ideologies and worldviews and conceptions of the future, this might not be such a profound crisis and threat. But looking around at those who dominate these sectors and realizing that nearly every last one in a position of extreme prominence happens to be left-leaning, if not far left in most cases, happens to seemingly despise Western culture and its traditions, and in many cases, its people, and what they're now calling, quote, whiteness, happens to be godless, childless, materialist, reductionist, transhumanist. One could go on at length listing traits they tend to share. So when I speak of this new culture as a relatively cohesive unit, I think this is justified, and becoming ever more so as they further unify and coalesce with the passage of time. It's scarcely an exaggeration to state that this element essentially hates and wants to completely destroy or disempower those with beliefs like my own. And I might just as well say our own, as most of you listening share similar mindsets. Those with a belief in a creator, those who look to nature and the natural as our guide, who prize a traditional sense of physical, mental, and spiritual health above financial gain, who prize the family unit on both the micro and macro levels, Those with an innate and inviolable sense of personal freedom that they're not willing to flippantly discard, and who know the potential dangers of doing so. This type is, clearly, their single greatest enemy, and it's the reason all of their guns are pointed in our direction. So imagine if we were all to put our heads down and allow ourselves to be incrementally herded and drawn into this new virtual world.